and so we are recording. And today what I'd like to do is play some of the PowerPoint presentations that you put together. We'll play them. We'll talk about them a little bit, and then we'll play the next one. We'll see how far that takes us today. And so Madison, Evelyn's not here, I take it. So we ready for this? Okay. Pull this up a little bit. There we go.
For this presentation, we are going to be discussing the semi-focus stand. This is with Moshe and Madison Master. Why this artifact? We decided to choose this specific artifact to research because of how religion heavily impacted the world when it comes to learning about art history. The questions that have been asked and is still being continued to ask are, who exactly are we? Why are we here? What is our purpose, etc. Without a purpose or reason to anything, there is really no point to it. And this piece of art, there's so much more good stuff. It's a piece that's not very well known, but it has an entire history and insight. So we have some general background info. The time period was around 1000 CE. Used in powerful rituals. The power that it was thought to bring, it was thought to bring political power and knowledge to those who were failing. In the belief system, the people that made this believed in God's own city. The material of the piece is wooden shell, and the size is 68.5 centimeters tall by 21.9 and 23.2 centimeters. And the current location is the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. For the time period, it was estimated to be created sometime around 1000 CE. In other words, it is essentially over 1000 years old. And it was also made in a time that was pre-European, when settlers were in a country that were untouched by outsiders, basically. So people that were there and they were extremely independent and they had their own, political beliefs, religion, all of those aspects, essentially. This artifact was created and used by a culture called the Taino. The Dominican Republic is one of the Caribbean islands in the Americas and is still one of the most popular places in the world. And this artifact being created in the Dominican Republic rituals and using their own unique knowledge for benefiting themselves and those around them. They have their own unique way of life, culture, religion, and more, which is why this group of people was only known in the its purpose for the stand. The stand was used in order to perform a ritual that involved the user ingesting hallucinogens in order to travel back in time. This would allow them to go back and see their ancestors in order to bring back knowledge and power back to the present. For benefit, essentially. The information that the user got was extremely important, so most of the time it was assumed that trusted people would take the hallucinogen and they would perform that ritual. The Taino people could also find out what some illnesses were and how to cure these illnesses. This sometimes meant life and death for some people as well. Those who ingested the hallucinogen were also given information by the gods, along with their ancestors, on how to expand power, knowledge of the unknown, and overall guide them and their people to live a better life. The power that thought bring was knowledge, and this knowledge would be obtained from the user, and it would be used in order to increase understanding, knowledge, medicine, and worship, and wisdom. All of this knowledge could potentially be used for civilization and culture, and force bringing it out. Although this means also having the time to do one, sing, dance, and they were a polytheistic group of people, which means they believed in more than one God. The Taino people believed in gods, known as Zeni. They were there to help essentially guide them towards better life, especially when asked for guidance. And a big part of it, of course, is the ritual that they performed in order to travel back in time and speak to them. The gods, however, did not have individual names, and they were unspecified about who or exactly they were. And yeah, using the stand, drinkers could speak to their ancestors and get needed information or advice.
Is Louis Bush Michelle, and there is a picture of the figure on the left of the screen. And what most well-known materials that were used to not only create anything else stand, so many historical artifacts over time as well were wood and Michelle. This was used oftentimes because the landed creators to add more detail and have the artifacts appear as more lifelike, and in this case, that's exactly how it worked. And the shell material was used in order to create the teeth of the dummy stand, which has intricate detail for use for detail and decoration. The focus materials in mind, along with the skill of the creator, this is how the wooden stand will appear much more realistic and
In size, in centimeters, it was 68.5 centimeters tall by 21.9 by 23.2 centimeters. It was also 26.9 inches tall by 8.6 by 9.1 inches. The Taino people carried this large cup around during ceremonies and drank out of it, hence discussing beforehand the ritual and what that ritual was to use, the purpose of everything.
So this stand is currently located in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. The Met Museum created a feature where you can use stand and arguments for reality, meaning that you can see the stand virtually in front of you as if they were there. You can also place the artifact wherever you want it and observe the details of the sculpture right in front of you. Because of current technology and having the answers to our questions, Zeni, their artifacts, and the rich history are well known all around the world.
Here are our citations for our project, and we hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.
Very good. Questions, comments? We got Evelyn on the hotline here too, so just say. I have some questions and comments and stuff. First of all, this is not in the book, is it? No? Okay, just double check it. Because Evelyn and Madison asked me, and it fit within the parameters, but of the time period. And so I thought that was okay. Secondly, this isn't a good example of cultures where the artwork oftentimes doesn't really survive over long periods of time. This is 1,000 years old, and that's remarkable. But if you take into the account what it's made of, the climate, so on, the idea of something surviving is, the chances of it surviving are really pretty small. And that runs counter to most of the things that we've seen before. We started off looking at caves and cave paintings. And the reason those survive is that most of them are way back deep in a cave, and the temperature, the humidity, the access to it has been stable for many thousands of years. And so it is preserved. Likewise, a lot of the artifacts we have from the Middle East and Egypt, many of them were from tombs. And so they were packaged, sealed up, and not disturb. And so to find something in a culture where they're not building these massive tombs and things, it's pretty remarkable. I want to do a little something here too. I want to open this up.
For this presentation, we are going to face why this art house.
I just want to see it for a second.
And the part of it was not spring, it was not.
Okay. There we go. Here it is. Have you guys ever seen anything quite like this? We haven't seen anything in this class, which was another reason I thought it was a good choice. And so here's what I'm talking about. Wood. How long does wood last? Unless you bury it, like the solar boat of Khufu or something like that, Sutton Hoo, so on. Wood does not last forever. It's an organic material. It decomposes. It decomposes actually pretty easily, all things considered. So yeah, that's why it's so remarkable to find something this old. The second thing I want to kind of point out here is the stylistic issues here. And I'm not so sure you've seen anything like this. I certainly haven't. It really goes back to, I'm talking about the belief system. In a polytheistic society, it means they had many gods. There's been a transformation in this Caribbean culture. And we call it Afro-Caribbean because in really the 17th century, the Europeans started bringing Africans to the Caribbean as slaves and working on the sugar plantations and so on. And those slaves brought their own polytheistic beliefs. And they merged with what the indigenous people believe too. And they're very kind of similar. And in terms of the art, it is very similar to what you find in West Central Africa as well. And so this whole Caribbean sort of develops into its own culture. This is a point before, as it says, before the Europeans arrived. But when the Europeans arrived, it wasn't long before they brought Africans, and it became really influenced, cross-pollinated culture. And so this fits that as well. And if you want to know, when we talk about Afro-Caribbean culture, there's a Caribbean part of it. And so there are a lot of belief systems. Just in that vein, I wanted to say it's a good choice. Like seeing. Any other comments? All right, so how about this one? Oh. Got to make sure I got the right screen share. It is. Let's play this. This is by Bradley and Julia.
And University with $3, which was created in 1360. The title states the piece depicts King Akhenaten on the left and his wife Nefertiti on the right, holding a braided of $6 in an outdoor setting, as seen by the sun disk at the top. The composition of this piece is limestone and stands 1 foot and 1/4 inch tall. Young man Armani artist created the piece using this sunken relief technique.
short is deep, outlines caution to rather than chiseling away on an object's face. Art piece was discovered in the middle of Egypt, or better known today as Cairo. Now the limestone carving is kept in a museum in Berlin, Germany. This art piece showcased Akhenaten and Nefertiti, people of a higher power caring for their children. At that time, people of power were showcased in a strong stance, usually involving war. They were only to be shown defending the people with things a way to showcase that they had power over others. The overall purpose of this piece was to show that people of higher power live similar lives as those who are not. This piece is presumed to be found in a private shrine and shows a different side to the royal family than we're used to. Typically, artistic works depicting royalty involves leadership, command, and or ruling, such as King and Queen of Punt and which shows the King and Queen of Punt on the right panel leading working men carrying goods, or Tai watching a hippopotamus hunt, which depicts Tai, a high-ranking government official overseeing a group of hunters hunt hippos. Society likewise only have to see these depictions of royalty as higher powers, not as average people with relatable lives. This, however, shows us the more domestic side of the family, a lifestyle we are far more accustomed to. Are shown enjoying each other's company, embracing 3 of their daughters. They're all sitting, basking in new life, getting raised, but acting the Sundays or sun god. The use of line in this piece is prominent, with horizontal lines seen in the seats and people being the leading direction. This gives off the appropriate feeling of rest and stability. Emphasis is also implied in this piece in several places. The viewer's eyes are intentionally drawn to Akhenaten and Nefertiti on both sides, when taking the viewer toward the semi-obscure children held by the two. Finally, the viewer is drawn up to the sun at the top, with the rays of light guiding the viewer back down to the main composition of the piece, which then the cycle repeats. This keeps the viewer interested in coming back to reanalyze the work.
Comments, questions? Well, I have a few things to say, as I always do. I talk too much. That's what they pay. So I think that this is, this is another good choice. It's a good choice for a presentation. There's plenty of information about this piece, Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and their children. Bottom line is that Akhenaten and Nefertiti their reputations have grown over time. And in part because what Bradley and Julia put in here, they showed the King and Queen of Punt with their attendants. And that's how royalty, pharaohs were depicted as authoritarian, as dominant. And this is not that at all. And in fact, it's so different that it stands alone in the history of Egyptian art. And Akhenaten himself was kind of rebellious. He picked up and built his own capital. He went against the common beliefs at the time, worshiped the sun god, and in doing so, kind of put himself below that that sense of being the God himself. But the idea of playing with the children, that is like so human. Like I say, it stands out over time. And Akhenaten and Nefertiti have kind of become heroes these 3,500 years later because of their humanity, because they weren't the stereotypical dictator, authority figure, and so on. So, thank you, guys. Let's see. How about this? Gabriella, can we show yours? Slideshow, come on. Let me make sure I got the right. Yeah, we got a good screen.
Created in 2520 BC in Gaza, Egypt. It is one of Egypt's most famous attractions and landmarks, and the nose was destroyed by a Safavid Muslim. Phoenix is a prominent mythological figure in Egyptian, Asian, and Greek mythology. Who built this monument? The Great Sphinx was constructed in 2040. Most scholars believe that the fifth dynasty created the Sphinx, although some believe that Croco's built it in there are numerous theories that feel as though it was supposed to be modern. The construction. The monument was not put together piece by piece. The Great Phoenix of Giza was carved from a single massive limestone. Noted that Egyptians would build Sphinx to guard important areas such as tombs and temples. Theory of underground tunnels underneath the statue. Archaeologists are investigating under the statue because there are tantalizing clues that the Sphinx sits right on top of an ancient network of chambers and tunnels. It is a monolith carved from bedrock of the Tang. Facts. Typically, the Great Sphinx doesn't have it wasn't originally named Sphinx. It was to the statue of the Great Kefri. Years later, it was renamed to the Pharaoh Outfit, which translates to horse and the Sphinx was supposed to be made archaeologists and design were able to find symbols, because images that the creation. This leads to believe that observations lead to believe that it may have been full of space and hence no remain at 240 feet long, 66 feet tall, that can be related to the Great Sphinx include pyramids of Giza, step pyramid of Diogenes, the Flora Temple, and the Valley of the Kings. These are listed as just some of the greatest ancient Egyptian monuments. The Great Sphinx. The Great Sphinx is located in the mountains of Egypt and actually still stands to this day.
Very good. And your it is open to the discussion and comments.
Okay. What'd you think? So Gabriella, I got a question. When you were looking through photos of the Great Sphinx, did you see any like really old photos, like from 100 years ago or so, from the early days of photography? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how you can tell. Well, first of all, the old photography is strictly black and white. But one of the things that you'll see on the old photos is that the sand actually is much higher here. And if you take a look at the map, you see this is right on the Nile. It's on the west side of the Nile. And as you can see right here, this is right at the edge of the desert. And so thousands of years of sand blowing from the Sahara Desert actually buried this. And all of the things that we see now were discovered, or undug, excavated in the last 100 years or so. And as they mentioned in the presentation, that there are clues that there is more underneath the Sphinx. And so that's really pretty exciting. That's right on point there. They're not done, excuse me, with looking at this. And it is truly, as they said, one of the great tourist attractions in the world. And if you have the opportunity to go see the pyramids and the Sphinx and all the museums around Cairo, which are fantastic. Even behind the pyramid, we have a museum, the solar boat of Khufu, as we saw it film. So anyway, it is well worth it. And if you go there, you will find that there will be people from all over the world there. You just sit there and listen. You probably hear about 2 or 3 dozen different languages being spoken. And oftentimes when they have tour guides, they'll have someone that speaks English or German or Chinese or whatever, you know. It's a big thing. So thank you very much. Oh, I had a presentation in the other class. You guys hit upon this, and it's a good point. It wasn't really named the Sphinx. And in fact, that's a term that the Greeks invented. They put the term on this. They said it was the Sphinx, and it's what happened after Alexander, the Ptolemaic pharaohs, and so on. And so anyway, it's not the first time we lose track of where the names come from, and sometimes they're inaccurate. For instance, we talk about native people of North America, South America. For about 500 or 600 years, they were referred to as Indians because Christopher Columbus made a mistake. He thought he was in India, didn't know anything about North America. Indians, I think the names stick. And the Sphinx is kind of like that too. It's not really the Sphinx, but it's kind of the Sphinx. So did I see Bisma on the?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom.
I thought so, good. Well, you'll be able to hear what we have to say. We're gonna enjoy your presentation. And let's see, slideshow from the beginning.
Hello, this is our presentation about Dome of the Rock, possible outcomes. This is Paula. And this one. We're gonna start off by talking about the cultural context. The Dome of the Rock, pivotal software in Arabic, was built in the late 7th century between AD 685 and 690 in Jerusalem, Palestine, by Caliph Abdul Malik. It is now a standing Islamic monument. It is one of the most significant monuments for a couple of reasons. In Judaism, it is believed to be the place where Abraham was in when he was given the order to sacrifice his son Ismail. In Islam, the Dome of Rock serves as a memorial for the place where the night journey of the Prophet Muhammad took place. On this journey, also known in the Islamic faith as Al-Isra wal Miraj, it is believed that Angel Gabriel descended and guided Prophet Muhammad throughout his night journey, and lastly led him to Al-Aqsa, where he ascended to heaven. When the Dome of Rock was built, half a century after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, there was no intention for it to be a mosque. The architectural design of it doesn't look like the design of a mosque. It was built as transit for children. Its outstanding architecture plays a big part in its significance.
Taking a look at the formal analysis, as the name suggests, Dome of the Rock is a structure that surrounds a rock that must be believed to be the location where Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven on. The rock is surrounded by two ambulatories, or walking space. The rock itself has a protective railing, and there is a stairway that leads into the cave underneath the rock. In addition, an octagonal exterior wall surrounds the rock. Each of the 8 sides are 60 feet wide and 36 feet high. The row of columns in the center of the mosque is composed of 4 piers and 12 marble columns, and atop sits the double-layered dome, which is over 20 meters in diameter. The entire monument is set on a horizontal platform, which suggests a feeling of repose and gives the mosque a space to rest. Let's take a look at the inside. The spiritual atmosphere is created by the soft light that shines in through the grilled windows in the dome, as well as the exterior walls. This light reflects onto the golden mosaics that's scattered in the interior upper columns. The vertical lines of the columns communicate a feeling of extending towards the sky or heaven. Taking a closer look at the motifs, you may notice how they differ from other religious sites or places of worship. The mosaics contain no iconography, but rather inscriptions and verses from the Holy Quran, which is the book of Islam. This type of artwork is called aniconic art, where no human or animal figures are depicted. The only symbolic icons depicted inside the mosque are mosaics of crowns and jewels, along with Arabic verses. These mosaics are composed of geometric shapes and designs, which honors the mathematical process of Islamic art. Inside the mosque, the ambulatories serve as space for Muslims to pray. Underneath the rock, there is a natural cave where there is also prayer space for worshippers. Lastly, let's take a look at the outside. The first aspect that catches a viewer's eye is the dome of the mosque, which is layered with green gold. The vivid blue tile mosaics are made from ceramic tile, and they decorate the upper half of the mosque beneath the dome. Both the dome and the exterior walls contain many windows. The interior and exterior of the structure are decorated with marble, mosaics, and metal plaques.
The significance of Al-Aqsa, the occupation of Palestine. Al-Aqsa is a stunning architectural piece that truly captures the skill and artistry brought by Islamic art. Through intricate Arabic calligraphy, mosaics, and geometric design, the Dome of the Rock is marveled over as a significant religious symbol. there's more history behind not only Alexa, but the land in which it resides. It is vital to understand the unknown occupation of Palestinian land done by Israeli Zionists when learning about the Dome of the Rock.
This past year, Israeli forces attacked innocent Palestinian protesters outside Dome of the Rock, and in addition attacked worshippers inside the mosque as well. They used rubber bullets and tear gas, injuring at least 47 Palestinians. This was all done shortly after agreeing to a peace treaty, which they violated at a holy site against innocent civilians. The ongoing oppression of Palestinians has been happening since 1948 and has since caused immense suffering on Palestinians where they are killed and deprived of their human rights. And here are our sources. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, questions? Well, I thought it was really interesting that you put in the struggle, the current struggle of the Palestinians. And I remember reading one time, it was a guy named Moshe Dayan, who was the general of the Israeli army in the 1967 war. And before 67, Israel didn't have this part of Jerusalem. And one of the things that happened was that they took it, and one of the Israeli soldiers climbed up on the Dome of the Rock and put an Israeli flag on top of the dome. And Moshe Dayan, he was incensed. He said, "Get that off here." Said that's sacrilegious. This is you put that flag up there, you're gonna keep this war going another 100 years. And so anyway, it is quite that contentious. And I was sorry to see about the more recent rubber bullets and things like that too. It makes my heart sick. But I might add this, that the Dome of the Rock, in my personal opinion, is one of the most beautiful buildings ever made in all of history. I mean, the attention, the detail, these guys mentioned the truth of mathematics. That is so good. That is actually, I think, what the world should embrace a little bit more of. And iconic, good word. That's exactly how this is adorned, without images of animals or people or things. Quotes from the Quran. They're raised, so they're in relief, gold plated. I had read this, and Dahlia, or Visma, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I had seen, talking about old photos, or talking about the Sphinx, I saw some old photos of the Dome of the Rock from a long time ago, and the dome was not as beautiful. It was still there, it was the same size, but it had gone into a state of decay, that it was like copper plate or something, and it was like the equivalent of being weathered and stuff. And then so, who was it? King Hussein of Jordan, I believe, actually financed, because this was Jordan at the time before the 67 war, went in and refurbished the dome and plated it, as you guys correctly described, with gold. So that is real gold on that dome.
Yeah, you're right. I did read about that as I was researching. So I forgot exactly which nations, but I think it was more than one that
Oh, yeah.
owners of them got together and donated gold to plate the entire dome. So yeah, I think you're right. I didn't include that, but I do remember reading about that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and you know, I said King Hussein, but King Hussein was like kind of a regional leader too. So yeah, maybe he just organized it and got all of the nations involved, just like you said. Thank you. Well, good. Thank you so much. And let's see, it's 2:46. Did we see this one? Yeah, we saw this one. We saw this one. Oh. We didn't see this yet. Make sure I got the right share. Yeah, we're good. And slideshow. Okay, Daniel, okay, good. You're not your computer, I get it. Okay, well, is it okay if we play it? Okay, good, thank you, Dan. Slideshow. From beginning. That's my button. I got it. Oh, there they are. It was hidden. Now we're in business. Hmm. I can't hear. There must be something here. Yeah. Or was it? Now I'm stumped here. So guys. That's the only ones I downloaded for now. I thought I'd do half and half. I know it's early. I know how much you like sitting in those uncomfortable chairs in this room that's way too warm. But how about if we pick this up Thursday and watch the rest of it? So to everyone involved, good work. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.